Feel free to say hello. I am a licensed therapist. Started this live streaming to answer any questions people may have about their experiences in therapy, their worries and conservative thoughts about therapy, concerns, kind of like my experiences. What's holding you back? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Have you been to therapy? Feel free to ask almost anything. Although I cannot do therapy online. This is not for therapy. This is about therapy, if that makes sense. A lot of people don't go because they're worried, concerned, never did it, have some anxiety over it, bad experience in it. Would love to hear feedback on people who have done it and liked it and why. Was it a good fit? Did you have to go through a few therapists before you found one that was a good fit? Feel like you got anything out of it? Thoughts, feelings, concerns? Talk about something unrelated? I'm okay with that too. Doesn't always have to be therapy. Or some of the things you do that make you feel better. Coping skills, hobbies, comfort zones. Where do you feel the most comfortable in life? It's not always going to be a therapist's office, that's for sure. But hopefully it is sometimes. My dog finally went to sleep. She was barking up a storm. Brought her out. Now she's all happy. I find comfort from my pets, honestly. Animals to me are always cathartic and helpful and loving without judging you. Cats judge, though. I swear cats judge. They have to. I definitely know birds judge. Just because you own a bird doesn't mean it loves you. They're weird like that. Tropical birds, that is. You can own a bird for 10 years and they hate your guts. True story. They will also outlive you. Tropical birds live 90, 100 years plus, depending on the bird itself. Imagine that. Your pet outliving you. What do you bring to the stream? The live is here for your questions, concerns, comments, funny things, helpful things. Open up a dialogue, get something off your chest. Just not therapy. I can't do therapy online. That's not appropriate. I do that all day at my day job and sitting in front of the same computer. I'm hoping, hope, hoping, it's not even a word, hoping that this becomes more of a community conversation. That's a good word. When I'm a therapist, my clients come, there's like a power differential there, and I thought that maybe this would be a good opportunity to kind of bend the ear of a therapist and me kind of hear you guys's what's it called? Let's just say that too. Hear input from everybody that comes in and out of the live stream on, what are their thoughts about therapy? What are their thoughts about mental health and, diagnoses and stigma and, needing meds, not wanting to need meds. Have meds helped you? Those kind of questions. Some people don't know who can prescribe meds. Some people don't know who can diagnose or the differences. That's always a good place to start because understanding how to navigate mental health is important. What else? What can be expected in therapy? What is what does a therapy session look like? What does an intake feel like? When do you start trauma work? Is a good question. Let's see what else. Is everybody gonna feel comfortable with every therapist they come into contact with? What other questions are good? You find comfort from your pets. Is that a good coping skill for you? Other than your pets, what else is a good coping skill? Do you meditate? And do you know the difference between meditation and active meditation? Is one better than the other? That's a good question. Um, have you ever had a panic attack? That's a good one. If you did, what did it feel like? Because everybody's panic attack is different. Have you felt like therapy has helped in any way and alleviated some of your symptoms? You're still struggling with some of your symptoms. Do you find individual therapy or group therapy more helpful? Have you ever been to group therapy? Do you know the difference between cognitive behavioral therapy and dialectical behavior therapy? Those are some good questions. Feel free to ask any of those or others if you want. You're just having the opportunity to talk to somebody who's a licensed therapist so that it doesn't feel so awkward. I don't mind being the face of an introduction into what it's like to talk to a therapist. That helps, takes the edge off. I know some of the questions I received in previous lives is, you know, how do I get over feeling like they're just seeing me because I pay them? Isn't this just a job to them? They really care about me. You ever get annoyed? Uh, do you think some people can't be helped? That's a good question. Am I different? Am I going to be considered broken with the stigma of a diagnosis? Some people find comfort in a diagnosis. Some people feel stigmatized and labeled and have some sort of feelings about getting a new diagnosis. Some people are frustrated that it labels them. Some people are relieved because it gives them a jump off point. See, I knew it wasn't just me. I knew that it was something I was dealing with. I don't like giving people labels. I think we have to for insurance, but we're really treating the symptoms and not a diagnosis, right? It's just a common language for us to understand what a diagnosis is. Common language for your doctor, your therapist, your family, yourself, your prescriber, your insurance company. Like if we're all speaking the same language, we get kind of the gist of what we're dealing with. That doesn't mean that different people don't give different flavors of that same diagnosis, right? Some people feel relieved that now that they have a diagnosis, maybe there's a jump off point on medication or coping skills or treatment philosophies that work or the type of therapist you want to see. Um, how long that therapy is going to last is good thing also is sometimes therapy is a snapshot of what you're dealing with in the moment, and that's it. It's not who you're going to be a month from now, a year from now, 10 years from now. Anxiety is like that. Yes, you can have anxiety your whole life, but anxiety can also be situational, right? You went through a stressful time in your life, you're got a lot of changes and transitions going on, or haven't learned how to use coping skills yet. So, anxiety can be something that's temporary. Some diagnoses are lifelong, and those are more things that you find with like chemical imbalances where you need to take some sort of serotonin, um, SSRI, or something like that to help balance out something organically. Um, you might need that your whole life, but we change, we grow, we lose weight, we gain weight, we get too used to a med, so those have to change too. But um, understanding what you're dealing with helps regulate or helps you pick a med to regulate what it is you're diagnosed with, right? And then there's like personality things that you're kind of born with. Some of them are deep seated ways that we dealt with adverse events in our life, deep seated ways that we understood and dealt with our trauma, or they called adverse childhood experiences. That was a good study that they did. When we're handed a whole bunch of stuff when we're really young, we figure out all these like workarounds, right? How do I get through this? So we learn all these coping mechanisms that I like to say are kind of like the beginning of a video game. When you start out a video game, sword is pretty shitty. Your shield is pretty shitty. I almost messed all those S's up. Um, and but it serves you well in the beginning of the video game, right? So the minor bosses you can kill with the shitty sword and the shitty shield. I have to slow down and say that. Tongue twister. Um, problem is that's not going to serve you well forever. Once you the game in the video game, you're going to need a better sword and a better shield, right? So if you'd use that philosophy towards childhood trauma, the workarounds you used through childhood, adolescence, and maybe even early adulthood helped you, served you well, right? It was the workaround you needed. Was it the best? I don't know, but it helped you. For instance, um, not causing um, chaos by conflict, right? You avoid conflict, or you isolate, or you don't tell people how you feel, or you um, internalize all your feelings. Maybe addiction, or food addiction, or self harm, even, right? All of those can be coping skills that you use in the beginning of that video game. Hear me out. It helped. Was it healthy long term? No. Addiction's not healthy long term. Self harm is not healthy long term. But it's in the moment something that you think that your brain needs because you don't know how to cope, right? You're using your child brain, you're using your adolescent brain, you're using your traumatically um, injured brain to make those decisions. We do what we need to fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Um, we develop all these workarounds to try to help ourselves cope. What happens is our life is like that video game where you need to up your shield and up your sword to fight the bigger bosses, right? So as you become an adult and want to start working on yourself, what happens is you need to get better coping skills. You can't self harm anymore. You can't use alcohol anymore. You can't use drugs anymore. You can't isolate anymore. You can't um, shy away from communication. You can't shy away from conflict. All these things, you kind of have to develop better skills in order to be a healthier person and fight the big boss of life, and become healthy through all that. So, through that trauma, it teaches us that it's okay to have whatever works, but it's not going to work forever. Alcoholism is just a coping skill. Did it help you in the beginning? Sure. But long term, it's not going to help you. So you got to kind of put that down and pick something up that's going to help you long term that's going to be more healthy. Same thing as a video game. You got to trade the shitty sword and the shitty shield in for better armor. Same with coping skills. The coping skills we used during adolescent trauma or, chaotic environments or domestic violence upbringings, they worked. You're sitting in the closet, keeps you safe, right? Can't sit in a closet when you're an adult and navigate life. So we need to learn how to let go of that and move forward. So that's my philosophy on how video games help us understand how to navigate coping skills in different increments of our life, different transitions. That's a good word. Different transitions that we have that require us to grow, right? If we only knew now what we knew then, we could save ourselves, but that's not how the world works. We kind of need to go through that beginning stage and learn from it, and then get better at it and learn from it, and then progress and learn from it. And then pretty soon, after we do that a few iterations, we're standing on the other side with much better coping skills. Yeah, but you had to start somewhere. So never fault yourself for having poor coping skills. Never fault yourself for having to get through something that you were trying to navigate that was difficult, because you're sitting here today because you made it through. And appreciate yourself for that. That's growth. That's self love, learning how to do that. And when we tear ourselves down and think that we failed or we were weak, maybe we had to be weak. Maybe weak was safe. So don't ever put yourself down for what you needed to do to get through something. But don't stay there either. Learn from it, grow from it, and come out on the other side more knowledgeable and healthier. That's important. Let's see what else. I love that video game analogy. Funny. It came to me once and I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense. I'm the analogy queen, by the way. So I think in pictures, when people say things to me, I think of ways to describe the theory without using all the emotionally heavy words. I give, like, suppose I'm working with a husband and a wife. Instead of talking about their problem, I use an analogy of something adjacent, so that I can take them out of their emotions, but they can see the picture from a non-emotional standpoint. So as I'm using the analogy, it allows them to step outside of their emotional conflict that they're dealing with and see the theory of what it is I'm trying to explain. So I'm the analogy queen of sorts. You'll find if you visit a lot of my lives that I do that a lot. It's almost like let's see, what else can we talk about? I personally have not seen anybody on live, although I haven't seen everybody on live, so you can tell me if you've run across it. Have you run across a therapist sitting here doing a Q&A, or just introducing theories and ideas and the philosophy of therapy in a way that introduces people that may have some sort of reservation or don't know much about it or never looked into it or had a bad experience with it? or linking people together to be like, "Oh, yeah, I went, I loved it." Having other people in the room hear that so that, wow, here's people, like, speaking about how their experience was. Because often, I know at work, you're not like, "Hey, do you go to a therapist? What do you think about it?" I mean, you might with somebody super close to you, but not typically a conversation we have, is it? Around the water cooler. "How was your therapist appointment this week?" You know? "Do you like her? Do you like him? Do you want her or him? Do you want in person? Do you want, um, on the internet? Do you want group? Do you want individual? What kind of therapy? Do you want CBT? Do you want DBT? Motivational interviewing? Solution focused? Strength based?" Like, I could just go on and on and on and on and on about that. Do you prefer somebody who talks like this? Or do you prefer, "Mhm, mhm." Some people like that. I don't know. That's not me. I'd be bored. I can't even pretend to act like that. Um, what kind of, do you want somebody who's super polished and super professional? Or do you want somebody in a NASCAR sweatshirt? I don't wear this to work. Um, but my point is, do you want somebody laid back? I know my supervisor, who signed off on my licensure, is a licensed MLADAC, like me, master's licensed alcohol and drug addiction counselor, an LCMHC like me, which is a licensed clinical mental health counselor. She also does movement and dance therapy, and she does hypnotism. I think I said that right. Hypnotism. So she's the type of person that will like dance into the room with a scarf and take her shoes off and sit like an Indian, and that's her that's her personality. We're supposed to be authentic and show you our personality. Would you be okay with somebody kicking off their shoes and sitting like an Indian style, or um, somebody who like flows into the room all flowy and dancy, like with a scarf trailing behind them, kind of like it's a ribbon doing the ribbon dance? That's who she is. I am a Heyoka therapist. Um, I'm not going to get into that too much, but that just means I use humor in very effective ways that tend to disarm people, and some people like that. Like, my humor, well placed. I've had the ability to like give humor to therapy about somebody's loved one passing. We were laughing hysterically. You can't fake it. It has to be authentic. But that's just the type of empath I am. If you come to more of my lives, you'll see a little bit of that come through. So you'll know what I mean, but hard to understand, hard to describe. Um, Look at it as like, here's another analogy. It's kind of like the court jester, right? The king always has the court jester in the courtyard, trying to make him laugh at all the dinners. Well, as a therapist, I also use humor to disarm people and create connection and create sense of comfort. Right? You can make somebody laugh and emote, like if you're bringing out emotive um, responses from your client. Um, and they're able to do that in an environment that's safe, that builds trust, right? Laughing is one of the first ways to do that, because then there's crying and anger, and it's okay to. I've had people come into my office super angry, not at me. I just let them be angry. Um, so allowing those emotions, I think laughter is a good segue into allowing some of those emotions to come out safely. Could you ever walk into your therapist's office and be very angry and let all that out, yelling, crying, swearing? Um, just let some of that rage out. I've actually given homework, believe it or not, to go to a smash room. How do you guys let out your anger? Not so good to hit a wall, it breaks your hand. But they now sell those like things where it lights up like Simon Says, and you just punch each of the lights to the music. That's helpful. Obviously, punching bags, the boxing bag, the long punching bag. I don't know the technical names of those, but those are always helpful. But I also have given homework for smash room or break room where you just put on a helmet and everything and you take a baseball bat to a TV. It can be cathartic. And it's pro social, right? If you're trying to learn how to let those emotions out, nothing wrong with doing something that is a socially acceptable way of just raging for a little bit. Sometimes we just need to rage. And once you let it out, kind of evens out and you feel a little better. Because I think anger and rage is kind of like a dam. It's holding back all the emotion, right? You don't want to let it out because you're not sure what's going to happen. You're afraid that you won't be able to stop it. You have a lot in there. So we hold it back because society says we can't act like that. Or we do let it out. We get in trouble or we get arrested or it sabotages our relationships or our employment. So honestly, if you let some of that out, what's that going to look like, right? So letting that out in ways that are okay, like at a rage room or one of those punching things for the wall so that um, light up and you just follow the lights to the music. Once you allow that to happen, you kind of started the process, right? You started opening up and letting the anger and the rage and all that come out. So once you allow that to come out, you've started a process that's going to be helpful on the other side. The people are told, don't be angry, don't have rage, don't feel, don't emote, don't. Why not? Why not? Why not? Find a comfortable way to do it because once you start letting it out, you started the process of healing. So that's good. That's a good thing. I get weird looks when I encourage that. Should have seen the first time I gave homework to go to a rage room or a break room, whatever they're called in your area. They looked at me like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm really serious." Like, what else are you gonna do with all that anger? You get ulcers, grind your teeth, crack your teeth, headaches. Like, if you don't let it out, it's gonna come out whether you like it or not. Arguing, punching walls, saying things sideways to your loved ones that you don't really want to say. So it's going to come out either way. Either you can let it out in a good way or you can feel bad that it came out in ways that you regret later. Because you have no control over it if you don't take control over it. Our body is kind of like a balloon. Fill it up too much, it pops. There's only so much you can hold inside before it comes out on its own. And there's a good book called The Body Keeps the Score. And it talks a lot about how you might think that you're handling things fine, but if you don't deal with it, it's going to wreak havoc, whether or not it's your mental health, your physical health, or both, right? How do you navigate that in a way that um, honors both of that for you? If you don't handle it, it's going to come out anyway. Or you're going to find yourself with all these like health issues later on down the road. The human body is not made to live at DEFCON 5, adrenaline, hypervigilant, anger, lack of control, impulsivity for the rest of its life, right? Kind of have to get a handle on it or it will overrun you. I know that a lot of people suffer from neck pain, TMJ, headaches, ulcers, irritable bowel syndrome, which is your gut is all tied to your mental health. So if you're not taking care of that, your body will revolt. If you're leaving all that adrenaline in there, it's gonna come out somehow. There are ways to let it out on your own, and you'll learn that with a therapist. There are ways that you can mitigate and manage how it comes out in ways that you're comfortable with. In the beginning, it might feel like you opened a floodgate and comes out all sideways, and that's okay. That's important. That initial part is super important because if you stuffed it with alcohol, if you stuffed it with not talking about your feelings and isolating or not communicating, it didn't go anywhere. It's all still there. So if you stuffed it all, it's gonna come out. So when you decide to let it out, the beginning, and I promise you it's only temporary, the beginning is a little bit difficult, but necessary because once you start letting all that out, it evens out. When you open the floodgates, all the waters come out. But then what happens after you leave them open? Everything comes out nice and smoothly. Same with your emotions. If you stuffed everything for too long and didn't deal with it, um, it's going to come out. If you um, allow that process to happen, you're going to do yourself a favor, and pretty soon things will feel a little bit more even and a lot more manageable. You just got to hold on and trust the process. Initial flooding, that's what it's called, emotional flooding. Once you let the floodgates open and those emotional flooding happens, it's temporary, and you and your therapist can deal with it together. Obviously, you would work on coping skills first so that you have some before you open up that process. But then once that process is done and it's done quickly, you can then begin the work and feel more grounded and even even's a good word, balanced, even and balanced. Not so all over the place and at the mercy of your emotions that are raw, right? They don't feel so raw anymore. I welcome questions, feedback, comments about any of that. Um, yeah, I probably threw a lot at you guys, so I'm not really sure how that's going to land. So I really appreciate feedback and comments about it. So if you didn't come into the live, please leave comments after as you're watching it back through because I think that I'm hoping that this resonates with some of you. And it's helpful to get a general consensus of how that information is received by all of you. So, with that, I think my dog is calling me. I'm going to go find her. She misses me. I've been on this thing too long, I think. But it was nice talking to all of you. And I look forward to you coming into my next live. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.